Good evening, everybody, and welcome here to Go or Go Home qualifying for race number 4 of the 2025 edition of the WRA Oreo Cup Series. We have 47 drivers here, only 42 are available to make the show. That means we will send 5 drivers to the house. Here comes one of them. That is Leo Hill in the 78. Leo Hill got to run the first 2 races on the season after not making the Daytona 500, even though he wasn't on the entry list. Excuse me there. Leo Hill dropped down to 30th in the points table as far as the Go or Go Homers is concerned. 20 minutes on the clock for this session. Getting ready for tonight's race here at the Richmond International Raceway. This is a track I am using the Nextel version because this version can hold a 42 car field, whereas the Papyrus version can only hold 39. Leo Hill puts a 22-102 on the board. Right in front of him, Daniel Voiles in the 81 car. And yes, this may be a little surprising. Until Geisha Racing sends me a car for the 81, Daniel Voiles will be stepping into this ride, run a handful of races in this Jelly Belly car. Now, if you notice, the first name on this race car is on front. That's, by the way, painted by Mark Games, and this is the double X car that Daniel Voiles is driving, 22153. And for the first time in Oreo Cup Series history since I can't remember the top of my head, but first time we're seeing Honda Accord in this series. Going to be very interesting to see how Daniel Voiles will do. Sam Tenley, who failed to qualify last week at Atlanta. Last week we saw Annie Thomas in the number 50 Amerivet machine, which will now have a 1 next to that number. This week it's Betty Johnson for 2311 Racing, going by Remy Crampton. Betty Johnson drove the number 83 Aussie Shampoo Toyota for World NOS Racing back in the Gen 6 version of the Oreo Cup Series. This is, by the way, Season 3 for these driver. Season 3 for this series, I should say. Carmen Alejandra, this week's driver in the number 84 Carvana Toyota Camry SXE out of Legacy Motor Club. She's right behind Donovan Dixon. Got to run Las Vegas and Atlanta last week. Made the field in those races. Comes into this race 43rd in the points table. So he's got a lot of work to do as far as the chartered stuff is concerned. Carolina Bradley, the Cody Smart development driver, is the driver of the 62 this week. This is Carolina Bradley trying to make her debut in the Oreo Cup Series. In front of her, Scarlett Wallace. We have not seen Scarlett Wallace since the Foster Series, believe it or not, and she did not have a good season in the Foster Series. Drove the number 41 Stewart-Haas Racing Ford Mustang. Never found victory lanes. You see Eric Monaco there. There's Isaac Willis. He is on the bubble, the transfer driver. As Daniel Voiles put a 21-290. Not a bad lap for DV. First race for Honda Accord, should they make the race here tonight. Isaac Willis and Sam Tenley. Isaac Willis has made every race this season, whereas Sam Tenley has not. I apologize if I have not been putting both the race and the let me go ahead and say this. I wanted to do the go or go home qualifying and the race in there. However, the issue is going to be space. So I decided to separate both the go or go home qualifying videos and the what's the word I'm looking for here? Um the main events, but they'll both run on the same day, just to give you guys an FYI. Sam Tenley, now on the bubble at 21.376, trying to bounce back from failing to qualify for last week's race at Atlanta. Next week will be the final race before the holiday break. Right now, the five that would go home if they don't improve their times, Donovan Dixon would be his second DNQ. Remy Crampton, who's made every race this season. Carolina Bradley, who's making her first attempt. Isaac Willis would be his second. Well, as soon as I say that, now he's on the bubble. So it'd be Tenley if he doesn't make the show, be a second in a row. Donovan Dixon, Remy Crampton, Eric Monaco, and Carolina Bradley. Those would be the five that go home if they do not improve their time. You know, for the 36 charter teams, they've already qualified, or not qualified, excuse me. They've already on pit road, just watching this qualifying session. Sam Tenley would be the driver who got bumped down. That would be Isaac Willis. He needs to find 200s to beat the 36 machine. Let's go on board Isaac Willis. Take a lap around in the Rudabush Ford Mustang Dark Horse. That's a good onboard camera. Dean Voiles is on pit road. Show you what the rest of the car is. There you see the Jelly Belly machine. Got nothing on the back because, like I said, this is a car that was painted by Mark Games. You also notice he has a pit box. Whitney Motorsports in partnership with World NOS Racing. Got him a pit box so that way he's got a pit crew this weekend. Eric Monaco is in the show. Now the 33 is also in. That would be Scarlett Wallace. So looking at this here as we're coming to the midway point of this qualifying session for the Go or Go Homers, as Dean Voiles is right next to his friend Carmen Alejandro. These two went to elementary school together, these two right here. Kind of surprised the Honda Accord is quick right out of the gate. World NOS Racing made a deal that if Geisha Racing doesn't have her paint scheme, she will be running that 81 car that's entered by Dita Voiles. So at least Geisha Racing will have a car that he will be driving in the races Dita Voiles will not attempt. Which I think World NOS Racing would appreciate that. There's Daniel Voiles in that number 81 machine. Right behind Carmen Alejandra and also with Donovan Dixon. The 81 will be entered by Geecha Racing and Daniel Voiles if Geecha Racing does not have the funding to have a paint scheme ready to go. So they will definitely share this 81 car and will be a non-charter entry. Bradley still needs to find some speed here. Remy Crampton in danger of a DNQ. Remy Crampton is 11th in points. That's a driver who came in running well in points. Remember, Sam Tenley was running well in points, failed to qualify for Atlanta, dropped all the way outside the top 16. So that's going to be really crucial. Look at that. 3/1000ths that Willis is going to have to find to get around to bump the 33 of Scarlett Wallace out of the show. Right now, the 36, the 13, the 60 that made the first three races of the year may not make this one. Donovan Dixon has not failed to qualify since Daytona, and then the 62 making their first attempt with DNQ as well. Nice size field for a go or go homer. And like I said, Geecha Racing is going to run the 81 car. Should Daniel Voiles make the show. And then Geecha Racing will more than likely have to start the rear of the field. Since World NOS Racing is going to field that 81 machine. It'll be interesting to see how Geecha Racing will do in that Honda Accord if Daniel Voiles is able to get that car in the show, which so far is so good. A 21.290 did the trick. Geecha Racing is still trying to make it to the track in time. That's why Daniel Voiles is qualifying that car. They'll more than likely may have to start the rear of the field because of a driver change. There's Betty Johnson. We talked about Annie Thomas made the show last week, so the number 50, this from a second different team, would make the show for the second week in a row. Should mention Daniel Voiles made the playoffs in the Oreo Cup Series when he drove the number 26 machine. Made the playoffs, sadly got eliminated after the round of 16. There he is, 21.846. As I hit the wrong video. Betty Johnson, should mention, did win a race in the Oreo Cup Series. That was back in 2022. Unfortunately for her, she was not high enough in points to have her win count for a playoff berth, and of course that was when she was running full time. Currently running a part-time schedule, like I said, for 2311 Racing. Annie Thomas, her girlfriend, going to be in the 50 Amerivet car in races that this number 50 is not going to enter. And they definitely picked a good driver in the 50 for Betty Johnson to be in. See what the fuel window is for these drivers here, as it is 132 laps. And tonight's race is going to be a total of possibly 140. So there's a possible chance they may end up making a pit stop at some point in the race, as Betty Johnson just giving Donovan Dixon a little shot there. And right now, out of the drivers who would make the show, one of them has made every race this season. That would be Eric Monaco. Of course, he was the pole sitter for the 500 until the pit stop situation got interesting. Betty Johnson hopefully she's not beating up the nose on that Mobil 1 Toyota Camry SXE out of 2311 Racing. Donovan Dixon is just trying to find a good lap. Betty Johnson's got a very quick race car. Currently second quickest. I know Dina Voiles wants to. Dina Voiles, I believe, is going to run. If he makes the show, it would be his first start of the year. And of course, Geetja Racing will take over the driving duties until she gets until he gets a paint scheme, excuse me. Down to the final 40 seconds of this qualifying session. Going to be a really fun race here tonight. Less than 30 seconds left to go in this qualifying session. That is it. Time is up. Don't know if Isaac Willis is going to do it. And let's see if he is going to improve that lap. He does not. So it looks like Isaac Willis, for the first time this season, will not make the show later on this evening. So that is a tough break for them. Dana Voiles in the 81 machine. He will make the show along with Betty Johnson. Leo Hill, for the third week in a row, makes the show. Carmen Alejandro will make her debut. Eric Monaco is 4 for 4. And Scarlett Wallace, first race of the season for the 33. So the drivers who will not make this show will be Isaac Willis. Remy Crampton, that's big. 11th in points, going to fail to qualify. Sam Tenley, for the second race weekend in a row, will fail to qualify. Donovan Dixon and Carolina Bradley, those 5 drivers, are not going to be in tonight's race. So that is the lineup. Question is, what will happen later tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time? You're going to have to find that out for yourself. So until then, thank you for watching Go or Go Home qualifying session. If you enjoyed it, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to become part of the Blue Hedgehog crew today. We'll see you guys back here at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as Richmond weekend continues here on the Blue Hedgehog TV, the best in our racing since 2017.